Welcome to our October panel discussion, how to automate your bank statement integration using the Cash and Treasury module. My name is Darren Michael, and I am the Senior Director of Business Development with GForce. And leading us in today's webinar will be the GForce Solutions Director. Round of applause. Thank you very much. Greg Gotlin. Greg has over 25 years of Lawson and Cloud Suite experience. He is part of the Cloud Suite development team over at Infor and known throughout the industry as a top expert. Our plan today is to discuss with you how the automation of manual tasks can save time and reduce the risk of errors. You will have an increased visibility into cash position, more accurate cash forecasting, and cash management within one centralized portal. And yes, the nice thing about that is that it does apply to both V10 and Cloud Suite customers. So hopefully everybody can see my screen here. And just wanted to kick it off with an agenda. And this is what we're going to be discussing today. We're briefly going to be discussing a little bit of information about GForce. And then we're going to turn it over to Greg, and he's going to explain to us, what is bank statement automation? From there, we're going to go into a live demo. We're going to cover a lot of different things. The list is here of some of the things that we're going to be covering. And what I'd like to do is just tell everybody that, we really want to make this an interactive call because a lot of the questions that you have, other people probably are going to have the same question. So if at any time you have any kind of question or there's something else that you want to see, please feel free to either raise your hand or just enter your question in the chat and we can share it with everybody. So,
and I'll try to leave a lot of room for questions too. I'll try to leave a lot of time for questions.
Of course, at the end. Right. So a little bit about GForce. We are 100% Infor dedicated. We've been around. We're going to be celebrating our 9-year anniversary. The nice thing is all of our consultants here have at least 12 years of Infor experience. So we've got a lot of different types of people coming from a lot of different backgrounds. We like to think of ourselves first as business process experts. The software could be as great as the software is, but if you don't have good business practices, you're just not going to get as much as you need to out of your software. Our expertise lies with FSM, GHR, Burst. So we've got a ton of the Cloud Suite experience, but we also have the expertise with V10. So a lot of the customers out there, they're not quite ready to move up to Cloud Suite. And we do a lot of optimization work to help people out until they are ready. And some of our specializations, reconciliation, treasury, reporting, automation, optimization, analytics. I could go on and on and on.
See if she could hear me because then I can.
Okay, I guess somebody wasn't muted. No problem. And we're definitely going to get into one of our favorite modules today, and that is the Cash and Treasury module. So I'm going to throw it right over to Greg, and I'm just going to ask the question. And Greg, how can I automate my bank statement integration using the Cash and Treasury module?
Other than turning it on, the out-of-the-box functionality is just, there's a lot of, you can really just take a bank file, and I'm going to show that today. You're just taking a bank file directly from, your bank. Most banks, not every bank, I'll just disclaim that, can produce a BAI file. What is a BAI file? It is a stacked data file that looks something like this. And in there's transaction types in there. So 16s are my transaction types. And the reason they call it BAI is the BAI numbers that are within this file. You can take a standard BAI file right out of the box and not have to modify it, map it, do anything. And there's already services built in FSM to import that document right into your bank statement and start processing it. There's configuration that needs to be done around what do I do once I get my bank statement in? And you can see, I already ran one in just a second ago. I got a little premature, but basically, you need to FTP that file over. So I just grabbing an FTP file. I'm just dropping my BAI file in my FTP. That can be automated by just connecting with your bank. Most banks will produce a BAI file that you can go grab via SFTP. Or, hey, maybe it's just a manual download that someone does every day and then they FTP it up to the server. It doesn't, the automation of that is up to you. Once that file's there, it's going to automatically go through the import. I didn't have to run anything. It just shows up here. Okay. There's some little setup behind the scene of setting up a channel, file channel to make it process, but it's going to come into here. And based on that channel process, it's going to interface into the system. What does that look like? Someone might ask. A file channel is simply a process automation tool that you can use. I set it up here for my banking information here. And I said, hey, go out there and look in a particular folder. That's where the bank dropped it for me, or my FTP dropped it. And if I see a BAI file out there, anything with asterisk, .bai, it's going to import that in. So it's going to run this process. And this is right from Infor. You don't have to modify it. It's an IPA that's out there that knows how to read a BAI file. Once it, and just to know, I have this set up to poll like every 60 seconds. So if there's new files coming out there, it's not something that has to be, set up to run. It'll just, if it finds a file, it's going to put it out there. And when it does, it's simply going to drop that file into my bank statement interface. Once it's put into the bank statement interface, I have it set to auto import. And it auto imported right into, so just coming over here to look at it, that BAI file, if I look at the attachment, there's all the information that was in it. It read it, coded it, put it where it needs to go, and ended up over here in cash management as just all my transactions. So in this one, it had several transactions. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions in there coming in. And it was a ZVA account, so it balanced to 0. When the money comes in, it's automatically transferred out. So in this case, money was taken out, so money was transferred in. So a ZVA came inbound to fund for these drafts that took place in there. You could see in the transactions in a BAI file, they give us information in that BAI file. In this case, the word fidelity happened to be in there. It could be an account. It can be lots of different. We got someone coming in. It could be lots of different things that you can use to pull in that information. It'll automatically push stuff to the bank reference field. Sometimes you'll see stuff in the related reference field, like an AP check. You might see the check number in related reference and text reference. It really just depends on how the bank organizes different things on your what we call the addenda records. I'm just going to briefly just show what that means. Those are the records that are 88s. So how does it deal with those 88 records? That's where all the information is. If you try to read this and do an Excel upload from here, it's painful. It's not that easy. But this did all that for me. It put it in all the right places. It also, this is where the automation comes from. Because I said, anytime I see the word fidelity in there, I want it to go to PayFlex. That's what I made a rule up to say, automatically categorize that. What does that mean? So let me talk about what that means for me. I'm going to go over to my cash administrator so I can talk about some of the setup that happens. And under cash transaction setup, I have categories. And that one was PayFlex. So when I'm in here, I'm going to just double click on PayFlex. It says, hey, anytime I see a PayFlex transaction, something gets categorized to PayFlex, I want it to post directly to Cash Ledger. I could also say post it to the general ledger as well, or I could say it's not posting. An example of it not posting, it's an AP check. It's already in the system. I just need to reconcile it. That's it. So if it's something like that, or maybe it's an AR deposit, it's already in the system. I just need to reconcile it. But if it's something like this, where it's a draft, maybe it's a utility bill that's coming out every month that that gets coded exactly the same way every single month, I can pick how that's going to get coded. I said, in this case, it's going to get coded to my 221030 account to my corporate entity. I can use allocation code. So if I had electric bill that comes in, anytime the FP&L bill comes in, I want it to send out to these 5 different departments in these proportions. So I can set up an allocation code, there's just several things I can do, or I can simply use allocations maybe to code that out later on. Also have customers that will just code it to a clearing account because they just want to make sure they get the cash in the system and into a clearing account and then reconcile that clearing account later. Maybe it's somebody else's responsibility to allocate out the different expenses out of there. So many different ways I can take it, more manual, less manual. How does it get to that? How does it know that PayFlex? Well, down in here, my processing rules, and I'm going to go to the one that just says PayFlex. Okay. And it says, I made a simple rule here. I said, mine was anytime the transaction number is 455. What does that mean? Just taking a look at my BAI file, I got really simple. I said, anytime that I see a BAI code of 455 come in, automatically put it to PayFlex. I can add other things. I'm going to just show you some additional ones in here under processing rules. Let's take, I might say, hey, where it has the word Florida PACE in there and the BAI code is 142. So you can get, more and more complex. I said, this is looking at that text reference field in this case. So once you start seeing transactions coming in, you'll know how to automate those transactions. And again, I said in this processing rule, I said, use the category, whatever the category says. If I wanted to, I might have a category out there called Florida PACE, but if it's Florida PACE and it's a particular entity, maybe there's a transaction or a merchant number or something else that's in that transaction, and I do something different to it, I can override and say, hey, use the processing rule and then do a different account. So I don't have to choose what the category says, but I want to. At the end of the day, once you get your processing rule set up, and I just showed high level, there's a lot of different things I can do with processing rules. Once I get that set up and I'm in my statement line here, and I'm going to go back to the statement line itself. I think it was this one. So back to that statement line, what I'm looking for, instead of having to go out there and say, hey, did I reconcile all the lines in my bank statement? Have I input everything? I want to know, did everything get categorized? So if I see something out here that was set to uncategorized, okay, so if it was set to uncategorized, I know I need to do something with it. And it may be bank fees, and I didn't have it. It's like a new bank fee that's out there that went to a different BAI code. I had not seen it before. I can then create a rule so I don't ever have to worry about that again. In this case, everything as it came in, once that import took place, it ran the rule processing group and it said, go ahead and code all these to PayFlex. In this case, we said they're all going to go to cash ledger transactions. So it's going to create these cash ledger transactions for me. So I can click on these and I can say, just release all those cash ledger transactions. Before I do that, I want to show you what happens at the end of this. So I've got this unreconciled bank statement. It's still unreconciled, but I'm going to switch over to reconciliation management. They're cousins in the system. So close and recon management is a great tool. So in here, I say that general ledger account and that bank account, they're joined at the hip. What does that mean? I'm going to come over to here and I'm going to look. I said, this is my 101050 account that it's going to. That's where the cash I was doing for my bank statement. And you can see there's that $32,644. The ledger balance is out of balance at this moment because I have to book that ZBA. If I go back over to here to look at that, that's how much my transactions were in my cash ledger, 32,644.06. So when I post those transactions, it's going to reconcile those and say, yep, I got it. I know what those are now. I can, my bank is not going to be out of balance anymore. So this tied back, not just, this is the bank statement side of it, the BAI side of it, all the rules engine that's happening. I'm going to create some cash ledger transactions and post them to the general ledger based on the processing rules that I set up. And then it's going to end up, I need to now reconcile the bank statement to my general ledger. This general ledger balance is live from FSM. It's live. It's looking up this entity, this company, and this account, the 101050 account. And it's saying that if I go into the general ledger for the month of October 23, that's what the balance is going to be in that general ledger account. Some other things I can do in here, if I didn't, let's just say I hadn't gotten my bank statement reconciled, I could have just gone in here and said, hey, I'm not sure what that amount is. I can actually go in here and just write off that, or put researching in here. It's got to be a negative. And I could just say researching, because that's what, accountants do when they're too rushed to get everything done. Oop, did that backwards, so sorry. And let's see here, and hit save. And now I'm at a balance here, but I know that I've got those transactions that need to come in. But I can actually affect that balance and say, I'm researching some amounts. I'm going to take that out for now because I don't want to do that. A couple other things you can do in here is, hey, if I needed to write off some distributions, let's say it's a penny off, rather than, I know it's that known penny that I've been carrying on, I'm going to find it one day. I can just go into here and do a journal entry right from the recon module and write off that. It's going to use a system code of RM, not GL, not CB. So it's going to say it's from reconciliation management. So it's auditable and I know where it came from and I can drill back to this transaction and why I did it. Other thing, I could have comments down here of why I did it, but also if I have some backup documentation, I can add that supporting documentation here and attach that file onto there. So if I had that supporting documentation, it was an invoice that caused us to go off. Give me my demo files, and I can say there it is. And now I've attached that backup. Oh, I needed a subject. Supporting docs. Now that's in there. So that's part of that audited transaction. It's connected to that forever and ever. I put the BAI file in here. I might have had a Word document. I might have had for that write-off, permission from the controller to write off that information, that penny, finally get it off my books, whatever that might be. I can also, while I'm reconciling this account, look for the infamous, somebody posted a general ledger transaction. So I can see all the ledger transactions that are out there. And I see, I got a bunch of AP disbursements that are out there for 32,000. That's okay. I know about those AP disbursements. I know about some of those are going to be open because they haven't cleared the bank yet. What does that mean? I'm going to go over to back to my bank statement over here. And I had AP checks that came in and they were coded. So 2 of those checks cleared. So kind of going back to my period reconciliation, I had, let me just see, I had a check out there for 677 and 180 and 1087. So there's this 677 right there and the 1087. Those 2 checks cleared the bank in this last statement. The rest are going to be shown as open. So when I reconcile this, it's going to keep that remaining balance open. I don't want to run my process right there too quick so I can answer questions or process things. So I'm going to just show you a different bank statement for what that means. I'm going to come into this one right in here. Oop, I meant to go into my period reconciliations. I go into my 1010 account for March and show you what that means. So if I had, in this case, I've got my everything is at a balance. I'm ready to complete this reconciliation. If I looked back at the statement balance and I looked at my unreconciled lines, my outstanding cash ledger lines, meaning, so here are the lines that did not reconcile because they have not cleared the bank yet. Okay, so I'm going to just get to the bottom of this. And it says it's $165,348.74. What does that mean? That's exactly what this number is right there, the open transactions. So that's my open checks. Those are my things, bank deposit that hasn't cleared the bank yet. Those are the uncleared items that are there. And it's linked right back to the statement balance. And in the statement balance, it shows me those outstanding cash ledger transactions. Wait for it. It's coming. There it is. All right. To get to my 165. So I just went through, there's not much more like when I'm saying this was out of the box kind of a solution, that's what you need to know. Those are some of the key things I just showed you, or what you would need to know to deploy this in the system. I don't say that it's something that everybody can do, by themselves. There's things that we've learned along the way to get some of those reconciliation rules working. Processing through, automating the bank file coming in, and then just processing your reconciliation management rules and getting things to post to the right, when I say that, when I'm looking in here, getting back to how to route this around for approval. So I have it set up to my close team. It says that I am the owner. I'm Greg Gotlin. I am the owner of this reconciliation. And I can say, it says it requires supporting documentation, but it doesn't require any approval. I could set it up to do approvals. I can also say I can have default rules that says if this account is zero balance and there was no transactions, automatically reconcile it. I might be reconciling a prepaid account and there's no changes this month, auto reconcile. So I can make up different rules to get out there. I can also use outside data. So if you're pulling in data from like an investment account that you want to pull in, you can pull in investment accounts and tie that to a general ledger account. It might not be part of the system that you're getting from a banking perspective. It might not be a BAI file. It might be something completely outside, or a third-party AR system that you're reconciling with. Any of that can be done. I'm just going to show y'all one quick thing on reconciliations. I'm going to change over to my reconciliation administrator, just show you one quick thing on setup. Under accounts, when we go and add a new account, if we're adding a new account, this is what I was talking about. I have all of these options. I can reconcile just basic, something outside the system. I can do prepaids where I can create amortizations and not use my recurring journal entries. I can automatically reconcile the payables accrual. So when they run that payables accrual, the old Lawson AP 136, when I'm running that, it'll automatically bring that AP file in there, and I'll see that it reconciles to the general ledger. Same thing with receivables. You just run the tieback report, automatically pulls it in. Assets, you run a cash, an asset register, pulls it in. Cash we just looked at, it's attached to that bank statement. That's the only one of the modules that in the recon module that you have to implement cash and treasury to really take advantage of the cash. RNI and MN, and match not received, those are from our inventory side, so you can do out your inventory. And of course, there's payroll. You can integrate this with, running the PR 198 and reconciling the benefits and things to the journal entry to the general ledger. Typically, if you get to the new payroll, this is really cool. It's a little more manual in the recon world here, but all great. It still speeds up the time. I know I went through this really quick, but I wanted to leave a lot of room for questions today. So I'm just going to open up the floor for a little bit here for questions. Feel free to unmute yourself too if you want to. Just speak it instead of typing it.
Hey, Greg, I actually had a question as it related to the difference between the categories and processing rules. Our company's looking at, integrating FSM Cloud Suite, upgrading from Lawson and looking to BAI and getting that process automated. And one of the things that we were referenced to was a custom group. And I'm curious if custom group is the same thing as a processing rule and when you would use, a processing rule versus a category.
So processing rule is going to pick the right category for you. Okay, but you can override how things are coded. And so when I was in Florida Pace before, I said, hey, automatically categorize that transaction if the text reference field says Florida Pace and the BAI code is 142. So it's automatically going to turn that bank statement line for you and put it to the category of Florida Pace. Okay, so my rule might be the same as my category. So that I think that might be where some of your confusion is. Well, it's identical. I mean, why don't I just use the processing rule? Well, I want to categorize things too. So when I'm looking at that bank statement, I can see that something didn't process because it wasn't categorized. Also, categorizing things is going to help you in identifying or reporting. You might have, like I said, you might put stuff to a clearing account, and you want, and then it's responsibility of, 2 or 3 other people to reclass out of that clearing account. You could give them a list view or an extract of the categories that hit that particular clearing account. And now, boom, you're cooking with gas, because you have a way to see what got categorized and what went into that clearing account. Here are the 50 transactions that went into that clearing account, and you can report on that. Does that help kind of take, because they do look similar. I have processing rule and then category, that same, pace in there when I was looking at Florida pace. It's really kind of the same similar thing. This one says post to the general ledger, use this account. And then that processing rule says, hey, this is the account down here to use, but this came from the category.
Got it. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else out there, feel free to ask some questions out there on recon. One of my favorite places is reconciliation, reconciling a prepaid account. Get rid of all those recurring journal entries, keep your auditors happy.
Hey, this is Patrick Gilbert with Treasury
Yeah.
from Oakland Power. Question, say we've got a new type of receipt or payment item and it hasn't been mapped yet. Does it go into an unidentified sort of holding spot? I mean, how, is new items are introduced, how, until that's mapped, how does the system handle that?
Yeah, so you could see in here, I have an uncategorized transaction. That one right there. These all got categorized as they came in, except for 2 of the transactions. It said, oh, those are all Panda DoorDash, in this case, or Uber Eats. So I know exactly where those were coming, where those were, those got coded correctly, but these 2 here did not. So I need to find out why. So I'd have to drill into those and say, hey, what is this transaction? I find out, oh, it was an Infor a transaction. It should have been coded to a, I don't have a rule out there for it. So I know I need to make a rule out there for that transaction. Let me see if I can find one that's more exciting.
Okay. That's
I don't know if that.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, this one I think has a lot of uncategorized. Yeah, so this one has an uncategorized transaction in here. And based on this information, somewhere in this string in here, I see it came from payment, Paytech is the origin. So this looks like some type of credit card processor. It is, I see it right there. So I didn't have a rule up there to categorize that. So make a rule, never happens again.
Got it. And part of the reason I'm asking that is on the Oglethorpe side, we have not really been using the BAI files yet. And so, this is something I've got a feeling that it's going to take us a while to build it up over time. So that was just, that was helpful to understand, what the system was doing with them.
Yeah. I get asked a lot, timeline of what you need. Typically 3 months worth of BAI files, a quarter of BAI files will get you to that 90-10 of transactions. You'd be surprised how much comes through in a quarter. If you can get that last quarter, even, it's even better. So just looking at that, you can typically request a BAI file for daily BAI files or monthly BAI files. They come in many flavors. I like to bring in BAI files on a daily basis, and then I'm reconciling on a daily basis, but really the one I'm tying to the general ledger is the last day. And that was what we looked at when we were tying back to the general ledger to create those transactions.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else out there got some good questions so far? Thank you. Any other things you'd like to see I can bring up? I wanted to make sure this is, I don't want to call it a demo, but a presentation to show you some of the things it can do. I would need hours to keep going through every little piece of it. And I always open my door to anybody on the call here that is interested in seeing additional things to reach out to us, and we can set up a one-on-one. Is anybody out there just implementing FSM or in the process of FSM implementation? Do show of hands if you want, or how we got, okay. Got one. So reason I mentioned this is it is when we implement FSM, we say don't put this off to phase 2. Implement pieces of it, even if it's just on the recon and close side, just implementing prepaids, for instance. It's a really easy one to do. And if you do it and you put it out there, the end users can really take it from there once they've got that piece of it set up. It really takes it from there. On the BAI side, taking a bank account, if that's what it takes to set up, start there. Don't not include these in your go live strategy. You will find that you will never do some of these things if you don't do them up front. I've got a few customers that have been on FSM for a couple of years, and they didn't know that they own this. You own it. Everybody who's on FSM owns Close and Recon, owns the Cash and Treasury module. All of that's just part of the system. You just got to configure it and turn it on and start using it.
I have a question.
Sure.
So given how beneficial it appears that bank statement integration is, why isn't it just automatically a part of FSM? Why does it have to be something that's added in?
It's not an add-in. But good question. It just got to be configured. So, no different. I need to say that I'm bringing in a BAI file. It doesn't know that your bank has BAI files. So the first thing you have to do is get the BAI file. The initial setup without doing any processing rules, probably just a few hours just to turn on some things, just to make sure I go through my checklist and check it twice. And I can get a BAI file. If you called me up and said, hey, I've got a BAI file, I could have that BAI file running for you fairly quickly. The magic for BAI files is getting it to say, here are your transactions. Here's how I want those coded. Because how you code a bank file, things in the bank file are different than how another customer might. So it is there and it's ready to go, but you got to decide if you're going to use it or not.
Got it. I think the way it's set up with how we're implementing is just that although it's there, I don't know if it was planned as part of the original implementation. So that's why I thought of it as an add-in, but I hear you.
Yeah, it'd be like saying, well, we're going to do accounts payables later on. I know I have it, but we'll just write manual checks for a while. That's basically by not implementing cash, the cash management side of it, you're doing that. Or the recons is a better example. I've got Excel spreadsheets to cover that. I don't want that much change in my organization today. They like their Excel spreadsheets to do their recons. Stick to the Excel recons. So it's that's why I say get it in during their regular implementation so it gets done and people start using it. Cool thing about recon and cash ledger, even if you implement it, you say, but we're not going to start it till the second period after go live. It's set up and ready to go. Okay, you're there. You don't have to start using it on day 1. You can use it on day 5. But if you don't set it up, you'll be so busy by the time you get to day 5, learning, new things, new toys, that it gets lost and forgotten about. Any other questions out there? How are we doing on time there, Mr. Michael?
Looks like we've got about 10 minutes left. So okay. If that's it for everybody, we can give you a little bit of a gift of time back. Let me just share my screen here. Greg, if you stop sharing yours, we'll be in good shape.
Yes, I can do that.
Excellent. I think everybody can see that. So thank you, everybody, for attending. This recording will actually be emailed out to everyone. So if you have any other further questions, please feel free to reach out to Greg or myself, or if you have any other further demo requests or something that you wanted to see, maybe that you didn't get a chance to, please make sure you like us on LinkedIn and follow us at our website, thegforce.com, for more information about upcoming and some of our previous events. I just wanted to thank everybody for attending today. I hope that it was beneficial. And I hope that everybody has a great day and looking forward to more future interactions. So thanks everybody again for joining us, and take care. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care, everybody.